an advocate for safe food, Jeffrey Smith from the Institute for Responsible Technology. Jeffrey Smith is one of our favorite informers of what's going on the front lines of food and GMOs and biotechnology. And in fact, let me bring Jeffrey right on in here with a quick intro. Institute for Responsible Technology, they're a great nonprofit group doing some of the most important work out there. ResponsibleTechnology.org is their website. And every year, by the way, we at Natural News, we actually raise money for this group because they're doing such great work. So we're always happy to have Jeffrey on. Jeffrey, can you hear me? Are you with us?
I am with you, Mike. All the way.
Great to have you on. Now, there has been a disturbing development regarding Scott's Miracle-Gro and a petition with the USDA regarding Kentucky Bluegrass, genetically modified yard grass, essentially. Can you give us the breakdown of what that's all about and why it will impact us for the foreseeable future?
Well, there's two really important things to understand about this latest release of information by the USDA. The first is that they're saying that for technical reasons, they have no choice, no desire to do any regulatory oversight over the release of this Kentucky bluegrass. It's genetically engineered not to die when sprayed with Roundup herbicide, so people will douse it with herbicide in order to kill the weeds. But it doesn't fit into some obscure categories, which has been the USDA's requirements to be involved. It doesn't affect the EPA whatsoever, which looks after certain GM crops, and it doesn't affect the FDA. So in other words, this ruling means that certain genetically engineered crops, maybe most of the future crops that we introduced into the United States that are not food, will have no regulatory agency to look after them. It'll be completely self-regulated by the companies who can decide to put it on the market and not even tell us that it's genetically engineered.
Let me be clear about this for those listening. This is a huge deal. This is huge. The USDA is essentially saying we have no basis from which to regulate this genetically modified grass. And that same logic, if I'm hearing you correctly, Jeffrey, that same logic and reasoning could now be used for virtually all, well, maybe not all, but many varieties of genetically modified crops.
That's exactly
is that correct?
Right. You see, the reason why this is the case is that back in 1992, the pro-GM Bush administration wanted to figure out how to get GMOs on the market with as little resistance as possible. So they desperately did not want Congress to pass any new laws. So they created what they called a regulatory framework, which looked at existing laws which were not competent to actually evaluate and assess genetically modified crops, but were able to kind of jerry-rig them and to say, here's how we're going to review GM crops using this old law from 1914 and this old law from 1950 and this law, etc. Well, because the laws aren't really designed for genetically modified crops, the USDA required that certain plants have actual pest potential or weed potential in order to be regulated. But because they say that this Scott's Kentucky bluegrass has no pest potential and slight weed potential, that they're not even going to look at it. They don't have to approve it. They don't have to do an environmental impact study. They can simply allow Scott to do whatever it wants with its Roundup-ready grass.
So then, as of right now, Scott's Miracle-Gro company could begin selling this genetically modified Kentucky bluegrass, and we could have people all over the United States planting genetically modified grass in their own front yards. I mean, this could be happening now.
Not only could it be happening now, although they say it'll be a while before they develop its marketing, it not only could happen now, but already there's about 185 million pounds of Roundup being sprayed in the United States. And the USDA just approved Roundup-ready alfalfa, and alfalfa is grown on more than 20 million acres, so that'll dramatically increase the amount of Roundup. And if we have grasses now getting Roundup, what we're going to see is a formula for a catastrophe. Roundup has been linked to birth defects, Parkinson's disease, endocrine disruption, lower sperm counts, abnormal sperm, birth defects, etc. And we're seeing a situation now where it's in such high quantities, it's in our food, it's in our water, and it's going to be on the playgrounds where kids are playing soccer and where golfers are playing golf.
Just so it's clear, again, for those listening, I almost can't overemphasize this. based on this decision by the USDA, which is essentially a hands-off decision, we can't regulate it. We don't have any regulatory framework to even deal with this. That's what they're saying. It's a surrender of the USDA to the biotech industry. Because of this, your neighbors could soon begin planting GMO grass all around you and spraying their yards with Roundup just nonstop. Your whole neighborhood, all the playgrounds, all the areas around you could be sprayed with Roundup because of this decision.
Which accumulates over time for months or years and stays in the soil to affect people, animals, and also it increases plant disease. Now, I wrote a letter to the USDA spokesperson this morning and got a reply back also this morning. I wanted to try and punch holes in this regulatory framework. I said, let's say you have a GM grass that puts out aromas that cause people to become mellow or complacent or sexually aroused or highly alert, or which promote hunger or cravings for a particular company's food or lack of cravings. Could that be completely unregulated? The FDA wouldn't necessarily regulate it. The EPA doesn't regulate it. The USDA wouldn't regulate it. So now you have marketers that can come and put in, they can do lawns that attract cats to go to the bathroom on it, or lawns that repel cats and dogs. They can have grasses that can produce catnip to get cats stoned. In fact, years ago, there was a nicotine company, a tobacco company, that grew tobacco with higher levels of addictive nicotine. They smuggled it into Brazil, grew it, then brought it into the United States and put a cigarette in each pack of 20 to create more addiction in U.S. smokers. It is possible with this law that this would be completely unregulated by the USDA, FDA, or EPA.
All right, so now what you're painting here for us is a future of genetically modified lawns where they could have lawns growing drugs or even vaccines. Couldn't you actually have grass growing vaccines in your front yard?
Well, if they're technically drugs and they're taken in, then the FDA may have jurisdiction.
They might say something about that, huh?
But in this case, if it's simply like a plant that has some aroma qualities, you can get different smells from plants. Maybe the smell has some is known to be cause alertness or arousal. It's possible that these can go in with absolutely no regulatory oversight.
Like Viagra lawns.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got my Viagra lawn. Come on over. We're having a block party on our Viagra lawn. And in the backyard, we have Prozac lawn. I think we need to run this by the Oak Park City Planner's Office in Michigan to see if they approve of the suitable live plant material of your Viagra lawn. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. What we have a situation here is it demonstrates the complete facade. You see, back in 1992, when the Bush administration told the regulatory agencies to promote GMOs, there was only one of them that had real strong laws in place that could slow down the promotion. That was the FDA. So what they did is the FDA brought in Monsanto's former attorney, Michael Taylor, to be in charge of policy. And through some kind of sleight of hand, somehow he was able to allow GMOs to go on the market and give them generally recognized as safe status. In other words, he told the companies themselves, we require no safety studies whatsoever. If you determine that your food, genetically modified, is safe, we believe you. We believe you, Monsanto, who told us that DDT, Agent Orange, and PCBs were safe. Now, Michael Taylor, who was in charge of policy, was Monsanto's former attorney, later Monsanto's vice president, and now he was put in as the U.S. food safety czar in the Obama administration.
Right, the great revolving door between government and private industry. But